Hello everyone, in this video we'll be exploring the effects panel and how to make use of different effects available in Pretend. To access your effects panel, you must first make sure that you have some sort of media selected. Then go to your inspector panel and click on the FX tab all the way to the right. You'll find 4 different types of effect controls in your effects panel, including color, orientation, framing, and transform controls, and we'll be going over each one individually. Note that if you want to make more room in your panel, you can easily collapse all of your different effects using the Show Hide icon on the header bar. This header bar also contains an on-off switch to turn a specific effect on or off, as well as a reset button, which will erase any effects you've made to an asset. First up are my color controls. The white point control allows you to modify the brighter levels of your image. So if something's looking a little underexposed, you can fix it by adding value to your highlights. There are a few different ways to modify the value of your white point. You can either click inside the dial and drag up or down to see the value change. You can enter a direct value within the box under the dial. You can click on the up or down arrows inside the box, or you can click below the box to activate the slider and drag left or right to change the value. Next inside your color effects is the temperature control, which allows you to change the color temperature of an asset. I'm going to make this one a little warmer. There you go. And you can also control the tint of your shot, which helps balance the greens and the magentas. Below your white point control is your black point control, which helps correct the darker shades of your image. If you think the blacks or shadows could look a little darker, you could raise the black point's value of your shot. This will help you obtain a more contrasted image. The saturation control helps adjust the intensity of the colors in your images. Raising the saturation will make your image more colorful, lowering it will bring it closer to gray. And last in your color effect is the opacity control. The more you lower this value, the more your image will become transparent. If there's another clip under this track in the timeline, we'd be able to see it if we lowered this track's opacity. Now you might have noticed a couple more controls under each effect. These are your animation controls and your accelerator button. You can animate your different effects using keyframes. Let's say that I wanted a shot to get progressively brighter as it played. I would go to the beginning of my shot on my timeline, click on the animation icon to add a keyframe. That's this little squiggly line over here. Notice how the icon has now changed. This lets you know that you've set a keyframe. Then I would go somewhere further along and raise the value, which would create another keyframe. Now, even though I've added 2 keyframes, you won't be able to see them until you toggle onto the clip's animation control, which can be done by clicking on the clip's animation button here in the top left. Just click and select from the menu to find what you want to animate. You'll then be able to see your keyframes and change their value. You can also add a keyframe by either double-clicking anywhere on the animation curve or by right-clicking and selecting Add Keyframe. If you want to make sure that you're not moving your keyframes in time, hold the Shift key down while dragging. This will make sure that you're only changing the value. You can even delete all your keyframes and use this slider to change the value of your entire clip. Once you're done animating, click back on the animation icon to once again access your clip's editing handles. To the right of your animation icon is your accelerator button. The more rings you have selected, the faster the value in effect will change when you click and drag up and down on your knob or left and right under your value box. You'll notice that clicking on this button will toggle through the 3 different speeds. Each speed is twice as fast as the previous one. The next effect in your effects panel is orientation, which simply allows you to make quick manipulations to your image such as rotate 90 degrees, flip, and flop, which reflects the video around the vertical or horizontal axis, respectively. The next effect is framing. Now, framing allows you to manipulate and adjust the size and dimension of the frame around your image. You can either use the aspect ratio drop-down menu to select a standard size, or you can use the different parameter value boxes to crop from a specific side of your image. Keep in mind that if the aspect ratio lock icon is activated, any changes you make to a specific value will affect the other values in order to maintain the aspect ratio you have selected. You need to have it unlocked in order to manipulate a specific side individually. You can also access the framing tool from within the viewer. Click on the viewer's drop-down menu and select Framing. The framing tool handles will then appear on the side of your frame. you can select any handle and drag to change the crop of your frame. Now, note that when using the in-viewer handles, the aspect ratio lock doesn't apply. The corner handles always keep the aspect ratio locked, unless you click and hold down the Option key. Then you can change the aspect ratio. When you've modified the crop of your image, you can choose whether or not you'd like for it to stretch to the edge of your frame by selecting from the Fit options. And now below framing is your Transform tool, which allows you to move, resize, and rotate an image or video. To move an image on the X or Y axis, you can use the Translate controls. You can rotate your image clockwise or counterclockwise by dragging left and right in the Rotate control. You can also scale an image by dragging below one of the values in the Scale control. Now, to unlock an image's locked proportions, simply click on the icon between the X and Y value boxes. And lastly, you can change the point around which your image rotates and scales by modifying the location of your pivot point. You can also access this Transform tool from the viewer. Simply click in your Viewer menu and select the Transform icon. And now from there, you'll be able to see the in-viewer Transform tool handles as well as your pivot point's location. Grab one of the sides to modify the image on its X or Y coordinates, or grab one of the corners to scale your image. You can also hold down the Option key while dragging to scale around the opposite corner or side. And there you have it. Now that we've gone through all the controls and animation, you're ready to start using effects in Pretend.